Welcome to European Moldova, guys. This is my conclusion video from my visit here to Moldova. It's a wonderful country. I'm now at the airport already. I will go back to Vienna and I really loved it. It's much better than I had it in my memories from 4 years ago. The DCFTA, the European Agreement, has really transformed this country and there is major progress, especially in Chisinau. Not in the old country, and it's in a dangerous situation, and I will now explain exactly what needs to be done. You just need to watch this video and I will explain exactly in great details what needs to be done now from the European Union, from NATO, from Moldova, from the Moldovan government. And bear with me, I will explain you everything here about European Moldova. First, we need the EU potential candidate status at the 23rd of June. And Macron cannot win this debate. We must give this status and IPA funding. That's very important. IPA funding really matters. That's the pre-accession. That's the same status like Kosovo and Bosnia have it today. And by the way, congratulations Kosovo for the new progress for the application for Council of Europe. But of course, Kosovo has already the IPA funding, and that makes all the difference for Moldova as well. And that needs to be done. That's the first and the most important. It's a decision by the European Union on the 23rd of June, and we have to get it done. No European community a la Macron extra something, but real European accession, and then we see who is ready, then get it done. That's the first thing. The second thing, what can Moldova itself do? I recommend very much in this deep economic crisis, because Moldova is the second most affected country after Ukraine from the Ukraine war. There's no military action here, but of course the energy, the refugees, the insecurity. So it's a big thing. So what Moldova needs to do is to stabilize its currency towards the euro, to back the currency delay to the euro, and then secondly also to adopt the euro. It's the much better policy. Like Montenegro has done it, like Kosovo has done it, adopt the euro, because it has huge implications in symbolic terms as well on the future towards the European Union. It is also the much better policy. And all these people here who tell me, then everything gets more expensive. Every taxi driver here explains you that it's already very expensive here. And it's a high inflation here, and the costs of most things are like in Europe, but the salaries are not. Yeah? So that's in all of the European periphery countries like that. But of course, with the euro, you can say that it is making things more expensive, but it's not true. The reality is that it makes things cheaper, because you have already most things the same prices. You have relative, they get cheaper because you have more competition, and you have also more market access, more price transparency. You have also higher salaries over time, yeah? And that makes, of course, a big difference. And you are in the symbol. It's very important to have the euro as the currency already. And then you supervise the transition, and there will be no price increases of significance on that one. And you can blame it then, but then it's already the reality, and you are fully integrated in the European currency system. It's much better. Be faster, be bolder. This crisis is not a moment to waste. Every crisis must be used. And here is the moment to really get it done. I'm a little bit with some in the nature here in front of the airport. So that's the euro, that's the second thing. On the NATO, it's the same thing. It's much better now when the Finnish have applied, the Swedish will apply. You know, there is already war in Ukraine. You know, the ability of Russia to really attack Moldova is very limited. Of course, you have to do it like the Finnish, and you need to do an internal direct security guarantee with the United Kingdom and with Romania and with the United States of America, obviously. They need to secure you in the application phase already. They have to do that, and then you apply, and in the shadow of all other things which are happening, with Ukraine being the big shield, then you can also join NATO. Yeah? Of course not with Transnistria. That is again the same like in Ukraine and in Georgia. The Western German model applies. But I will mention also what to do on Transnistria in a second. But starting the application matters. Why it is so important? Because you have to show that you are fully part of the West. You are not a neutral like Serbia, like Austria, like all this kind of hiding in their neutrality while being pro-Russian country. you really want to be the Western country. And that's important because you need America supporting you in the European Union. Because every single enlargement up to now has happened only because America wanted it, together with Germany as ally, against France. Because they have been against the United Kingdom in '73, they have been against the southern enlargement of Portugal, of Spain, they have been against every single enlargement then afterwards. They only grudgingly later consented when the Germans insisted based on American pressure. Because the Germans have to pay for everything, the French are with the Russians and not interested in Eastern Europe, and that's the truth since ever. They would be happy to have their own European Union, just themselves and maybe the Germans and some few Benelux, and that would be it. Yeah? They don't want any more of anything, and I'm attacked by some kind of, I'm a little bit a coward. So situation is you need to have the American support. That's the best to show that you are fully part of the West. You are not somewhere in between, and get the Ukrainians on board to support this. They are very important in that one, and fix your relations with Ukraine. Yeah? That's very important. So NATO application matters because of American support for EU enlargement. Yeah? And then obviously also it matters because then you are in NATO and you are secure. You are secure forever. This is a big difference. So it's absolutely necessary to do it. And of course you cannot defend yourself, but you can start like Kosovo to build up a small defense force, 5,000 people. If you have the core of a defense force and it's NATO standards and aligned and equipped, yeah, that's already something very effective. You can always draft more people in case you need it. I made a separate video on that one. By the way, it's also very important to recognize Kosovo, because also we should end the Eastern Partnership, that or keep it for Azerbaijan and for Armenia and for Central Asia. I made the text already. But for this region, no Eastern Partnership, but EU accession and organized in the Regional Cooperation Council and in CEFTA. This is the much better strategy, and for this it would be very good to contain Serbia, not to take it too seriously, but to work with Kosovo and show Serbia that its time is over, because Ukraine, Georgia and Moldova, Bosnia, they all recognize Kosovo, and that would be very good. And if you do that, that makes a lot of sense. And now when Kosovo is applying for Council of Europe, it's anyhow the moment of truth. If you want to be with Russia, you oppose it, and then you will get no support. Or you are with the EU and with the US and you support the Council of Europe membership of Kosovo, and then you can also recognize it, because if you're sitting in the Council of Europe, it's obviously logically you can already recognize, because it's a full member state then of the Council of Europe. So recognition makes a lot of sense, and that's also very important. Yeah? Then it comes to federalization. It's a hated word here because Russia always abuses this word, like the Kosovo issue, they always abuse, and then you believe because intellectual the debate is here too low level. So federalization, like Austria, is very good. We are a federal country. Germany is a federal country, America is a federal country, Canada, Mexico. There's nothing bad in federalism. It means power to the regions. And it's very important to be a federal Moldova, because you need to empower your regions, because you have inherited a very centralistic Chisinau-only development concept. Chisinau is okay, the rest is not okay. And it's also very important because you want to get Transnistria fully back into a federal Moldova. For this you need the euro, but you need also regional development in a decent way. And how to do that? You need to have a federal constitution where the rights of, like in Steiermark and Upper Austria, Bavaria, they all have the same rights, and they are really very powerful in economic terms. And then you make a European Gagauzia like a dream region, the dream region. And then you invite all the guys from Transnistria, say how wonderful it is in European Gagauzia, which is fully with the euro, in NATO, EU, and has all these powers and all this regional development concept. You build a lot of highways and railways. You make a Comrade a hub for the railways and the highways to Romania and to Ukraine. And then it's suddenly very, very good. And then the Transnistrians will say, oh good, yeah, maybe we get the same deal and we will be also inside, and it would be much better and we will be much more happy. And then it all makes a lot of sense. So federalization is very good. Austrian federalism is very good. Empowerment of the region is very good for SMEs. You need regional development agencies with own budgets and own priorities. You need also the real power in terms of the opportunity to develop the country themselves. You need regional assemblies, governors that you all have. And this is the way to really implement and progress and do good things for the regions. Because regional development is very important, because only that way you can really have the whole country developed in infrastructure, in economic development. You have competition between the regions which have self-empowerment, and then there is also more involvement of all the land, all the people, all the mineral resources. Everything works much better when you have regional development on a competitive basis, on a devolved basis, on a federal basis. Yeah? This is what we do in Austria very successfully. This is what Germany does, this is what America does. Moldova, you can do the same. And it's very important then to make European Gagauzia the model, and then you go in the next stage and you say to the Transnistrians, look how wonderful it is in Gagauzia, you can be the same. And now they are anyhow fully detached from Russia, because the Ukrainian shield is so strong on the southern Bug, and they are very powerful, and they have protected Transnistria and Moldova. And so the Russians will never be able to cross the southern Bug anymore, and they will never attack old Odessa, and they might attack it by air, but they will never take it. It's over. Moldova is safe, and you should then also make the Transnistrian offer that they will be fully part, and also the economic model when they are now totally detached from the Russian economy, because there is no transport possible in no way via Ukraine for them, so everything must go via Moldova. So it's very logically that they are part of the Moldovan economy, and we should also make a generous offer. That comes to the financial terms as well, because I've already mentioned the euro. But as Europe, what I hear now from these people I was honored to meet, yeah, it's like this: they're all completely disappointed by the low level of crisis support for Moldova from the European Union in financial terms. Yeah. We must be a bit more generous and a bit more magnanimous. Yeah? As European taxpayers, I say very clearly, we need a very good system. We need to make it like this, that we have this 1.5 trillion EU debt fund, which now will come in one dimension or another. Maybe they lack a little bit the opportunity, but we need a 1.5. And no worries, it's not inflationary, because it will be for smoothing the energy transition, for building the energy infrastructure for Eastern Europe. Yeah? Because in the Corona, it was a lot for the Southern Europeans. Now it's time for the Eastern Europeans who are not already in the EU to get here the support for the accession. This is important. The reconstruction of Ukraine, the EU integration of Ukraine, the infrastructure integration of Ukraine, Georgia, Moldova and the Western Balkans must be the focus. And of course the rearmament of Europe and all these points I made already. But this is very important for Moldova now. You can refer my articles and also my whole videos about this topic. But for Moldova we need about 500 million for the next 10 years every single year. So a 5 billion package is about the dimension this country needs, maybe even more when you add also the infrastructure package. But only in macro fiscal support and in the main things for Moldova alone, 5 billion must be budgeted, and this is a reasonable sum. And then we are also good and we can stabilize this country. And when we give Ukraine now 5 billion in the month, so I'm talking 5 billion only for the next 10 years for Moldova. It's of course a much smaller country, but imagine the dimension of the cost of the Ukraine war. So policy failure like Macron's and Merkel's appeasement has cost us very dearly. But we should not then save at the other side with poorer countries like Moldova. It's absolutely nonsensical. So 5 billion, 500 million every year. And that's the package. And of course also additionally they should be all included and appropriately funded, like in the Western Balkan Investment Initiative, that the Eastern Partnership gets less. It's absolutely ridiculous from the start. When we decided this, when the EU decided it, I was critical that this is absolutely ridiculous decision, and I was completely right and it is. And so we need to have the same financial support for infrastructure like for the Western Balkans. Actually, we should be much more generous in the Western Balkans as well in the new package, because we need fast-track infrastructure. Because all these comical guys, I'm working 5 years now on this one, and I always say it, we need to integrate Ukraine and Moldova in our European infrastructure systems, and they say it's too expensive, they don't do it, and then we have now all this grain and all this steel is not anymore able because the Black Sea is blocked by Russian mines and ships. By the way, sink them all and liberate Odessa. But the Black Sea from the Russians. But the thing is, of course, that we have a real problem because we have not built the highways, we have not built the railways connections on land from Moldova to Ukraine and to Romania and Poland. And that's something I have already 2017 in my first open letter I called for that. And you don't have to be a magic child or whatever, whiz kid, to know that we need help. It's one continent, we need one railway system, we need one highway system, and we need to get them in the customs union. I forgot that one. Moldova, Georgia and Ukraine must be in the EU customs union. It's really much better than Turkey. Turkey also, that's fine, and it's very successful. Somebody here at the seminar told me that is not the reason why the Turkey is successful. That was very bizarre. It's of course why they are successful, and the customs union works. It's very important, and so put them immediately in the customs union. And I don't know why we always need a war in order to do something reasonable, and then we only do it on 1 year. The big decision here that we basically cancel all the tariffs and all the quotas for Ukraine only for 1 year is very good that we do this, but we should have done it 5 years ago with the DCFTA, and we should do it permanently to put Ukraine in the customs union, Moldova in the customs union, the Western Balkans in the customs union immediately, and to open the labor market for all the countries, for all EU 37 countries, and give them a very clear perspective. Now the labor market open for all EU 37, of course the customs union for EU 37 immediately, of course the euro for all of them, and of course a firm date 2029 they can be in the European Union. Moldova flying with the Moldovan airplane into the European Union, not immediately, but in 7 years. 7 years is absolutely doable because they have done most of the regulatory reforms already, and what is needed now is of course action inside, and then we fix it inside, because there we have full regulatory access. They are obliged to do exactly what they need to do because they are inside the European Union, and it worked in all the 13 countries much better now inside than with the other countries, 6 Western Balkan countries outside. Because why it's so logical? Because they are then in our regulatory system fully, and they can be simply then reminded nicely with contract and other legal measures, because they simply are in our regulatory system, and it's much better to be inside, and we continuously reform it and develop it. And it's not good just to be in some digital union and vague energy union, which we anyhow have not achieved, both of them, and we are working on it. And capital union, that's all nice and good in the future if we ever will finalize it. But what we are actually is a customs union and a currency union. So, and a common labor market. This is basically the internal market in most aspects, but the real tools is the customs union and the currency, and of course the common labor market. So that is very, very good to get this done. And stop sleeping, Brussels, and don't listening to Macron. And the Americans help us to tackle Macron down, because he is taking whole Europe down. He has already managed with his policy to get us into this war by distancing Europe and NATO from Ukraine, and Russia took it as a green light to attack. Of course, Putin is responsible for his own action, he is an adult, but Macron is an enabler of Putin. Let's never forget it. And he is an enabler of Putin together with the inexperienced Scholz, who I hope will be removed very soon, and Merz will be Chancellor. Yeah, that's the political stuff here, but nevertheless, that's what Moldova should do now, and should do very fast, and that what all friends of Moldova should do. That's my conclusion of this visit. I hope I touched most of the important issues here before I leave, and I hope I will come back and that's what I will say when I come back as well on federalism, on low taxation. By the way, flat tax 12%, perfect. Just to mention that one as well, it is very good. I've talked about federalism, regional empowerment, SME development, Austrian style, very good. About EU membership, NATO membership, the euro, about NATO, about defense agreements with America, tackling the French, the open labor market, the customs union. Yes, I think that's, and of course digitalization, BFC, the digital municipalities, and doing everything, of course, like they are doing it already in the Balkans and in an alliance with all 9 countries to open up Europe and to join in 2029. I think that's my wisdom, and I think I wish you peace, and success, prosperity. I hope that you will support Ukraine very much, because they have deserved. They are opening Europe now, they are defending us from Russia, and they are real heroes, and they saved you at the Southern Bug. And I recommend you to put a big monument for Ukrainian heroes at the Southern Bug, because the reason why all the friends I met are not having to fight now, and they can also join the European Union, is the heroes of that beautiful Southern Bug crossing defenders. That's the right word to say. They have defended the Southern Bug. And be sure, I will visit Mykolaiv the moment it's possible, and I will celebrate the heroes of Mykolaiv and of the Southern Bug river crossing, who didn't allow the Russian paratroopers to cross that river. Good. So be nice to the Ukrainians, and the best thing to do, nice to the Ukrainians. You don't have to help them financially or militarily, they have enough, but you can help them politically by joining NATO and not being neutral, because neutrality is killed by the Finnish anyhow. Actually, the Russians killed neutrality by the war against Ukraine, and now with Finland and Sweden coming in, and I will make this campaign in Austria now, and I hope that Malta, socialists, of course, they are neutral, and the Irish, irresponsible, are also neutral, but I think that we can fix, and the Serbians are the last neutrals. You don't want to be in one group with Serbia, because they will really get a lot of problems now for their neutrality and their warmongering and their anti-European pro-Russian stance, and that will be very tough in the coming weeks and months for the Serbs. So recognize Kosovo, I think I said that. Yeah, and I think that's my most important policy recommendations. And let me say thank you very much for this invitation. It was wonderful to be here at this time, meeting many friends, many interesting people. And just I can say it's a wonderful country. I would love to come back. I'm ready to support, and I will support European Moldova in all these issues. I will do what I can from Vienna and spread the word about Moldovan success in the Western Balkans and in Brussels with everybody who is watching this video. I hope many. Please give me a like, please support my tweets, and please support Moldova in the European Union, NATO, the Euro, recognize Kosovo, and please reform your economy into a fully European economy. Be courageous. It's now also an opportunity despite all this crisis, because now Europe is open and you can join, and it will be a much better European Union, not with 450 million, but we will be almost 600 million, and that will be good. Yeah? We will be 600 million, a really very big internal market, a strong European Union with the UK coming back with a responsible union, a union of responsibility, of freedom, including Ukraine, and will be much better, and we will defeat Russia, and we will also be long-term much more successful, and we will be the light tower of democracy, freedom, market economy, and we will overcome the original sins of Europe, the anti-Semitism, the anti-Americanism, the anti-capitalism, and the protectionism. We will open Europe up to the world, and we will be a really good contribution to a better world. And that's my plan for EU37. Thanks a lot from here. Now I have to get out of the sun. 23 minutes is enough for my conclusion video. And thanks a lot. And also listen to my podcast audio. I will release soon when I'm back. And I will also make a lot of tweets. Follow me and please subscribe to this podcast. And thanks for all the 600 subscribers I have already. I'm very honored. More to come from Pax Europiana. Best regards. Bye.